Autism experts talk of a global epidemic, while autism rates among children keep rising. Tonight, in the first of a two-part series on autism, Special Assignment shows the extent that some desperate parents go to in their quest to help their children.
When you give birth to a child, you expect them to be something else, to be someone. It's devastating. It's hard.
While the debate around the exact causes and triggers rage on, some parents say conventional therapies have failed them.
We don't have anything in South Africa. There's nothing for us here, therapy-wise, for our children. So if we need something, we must go and find it somewhere else.
Tonight we highlight parts of these treatments deemed controversial or outright dangerous by some, but other parents hit back, saying they will do anything they can to help treat their children's autism symptoms.
At the end of the day, there's only so much you can control. Here and now, helping them be as independent as they possibly can, them being happy, well, and doing things that they're good at, and increasing their self-esteem, that's what we work towards, that's what we want for them.
When he was 8 months, like he wouldn't do the things that other kids would do. Like he would sit in one place, he wouldn't like move around, crawl, or when he was sleeping, he wouldn't get up. That's how I noticed that then he's a little bit behind.
He didn't reach his milestones, and we started to try and find out. We went to doctor, and eventually we got a doctor in Pretoria, and he said to us, okay, your son's got autism, and that's where we found out he was autistic.
I have triplet boys who are 20, diagnosed with autism when they were 3. And at the time there was really very little known, understandably so. It was at the time where there was just prevalence was starting to increase. And because they were identical triplet boys, people didn't really know what autism, they thought it was a triplet thing or a boy thing, and that they had perhaps their own little language. And we had no idea, so you don't have a clue. Your understanding, or my understanding of autism was, you're sitting in a corner rocking.
Most of the children that we see present at around about 18 months to 2 years age, where people are worried that they're not developing speech in time. So that's the most common presentation. Some people would complain about behavior, tantrums, meltdowns. The sensory sensitivity would bother some people, and they would present with those kinds of complaints.
Unfortunately, there is no profile, and there's such a wide spectrum of children and adults that fit along a huge different profiles. So there is no one specific thing that you could identify in a child or an adult. 4 times more boys are actually affected than girls are. We're not sure exactly of the reasons, if it's genetic or if there is a theory that girls are naturally more nurturing and more social, so the symptoms are a bit more hidden than they are in boys, but we really don't actually know the reason.
I was devastated. Yeah, it was difficult thinking that my child will never be normal. It's difficult. Like I keep asking myself, how long am I going to take care of him? Because like at some point he has to grow up and be able to take care of himself, do things for himself. It's just difficult. It's stressful. It's stressing. It's frustrating. Sometimes you get so frustrated that why me?
It is extremely difficult for parents, and we find a lot of the time in South Africa that parents will find their own support groups in their communities, and as soon as they start setting a group up, more and more parents will join them.
In fact, many parents of autistic children simply don't cope, and very few childcare centres in South Africa caters for children with special needs. Kerry Haxon runs a care centre one of only a handful of care and respite centres where severely autistic children can be cared for.
Most of the children that have been abandoned are probably the ones that are maybe the autism side, where people don't know what to do with them. Most of our children do have families. We probably have a few children at pro bono here that we, where families have kind of been really at their wits' end, and we'll just take the children.
We are finding that more and more. We really aim to have the children stay with their families. Those are the ones that are ultimately responsible for them. But you can understand that if no support has been put in place for those families, emotionally or physical support that they need, it's extremely overwhelming. And we do have this challenge, and what we're faced with is that the families do either want to abandon, or if they have abandoned, then there's no place for those children to go.
At the time that Special Assignment started with the filming of this story, we heard about a little girl who was left abandoned in a Johannesburg hospital. She was found wandering around the hospital wards, disorientated and unable to speak. Hospital staff called police, but because of her behavior, they claimed they could find no safe house willing to take her in. The little girl ended up spending 2 nights at the Hillbrow police station. Special Assignment is in possession of these pictures taken from a hidden camera. The little girl was eventually sent to the Rahima Musa Hospital, where staff kept her tied to a bed for 2 months.
There was a lot of sort of marks from where she was restrained to the bed. Her hair was a mess, she hadn't been bathed, she was extremely hungry. They'd also put her onto medication because obviously they couldn't control her.
They knew she had autism. What happened is she was in a medical ward, and she was disturbing the other children and the other families and parents of children who were very ill. It's never acceptable to tie any child to a cot, but they really felt that they had no alternative.
The policies and procedures here kept her tied to a hospital bed rather than allowing us to bring her here and then going through the paperwork. So we know she was there probably in the hospital for 8 weeks.
The little autistic girl that was found abandoned at a Johannesburg hospital is now in a care centre. Special Assignment approached the Gauteng Police, Health and Social Services Department to explain why the system failed her, but none responded to our questions.
She's settling in very well. She really is. She's adorable. She's very, very affectionate. She wants to be cuddled a lot. You get very good eye contact from her. She's still non-verbal. She likes being around the other children and watching them. This is a forever home. Once schools finish at 18, obviously the children don't have to leave. And a lot of the centres I found here, the government ones, they're between 7 and 18, and after 18 they have to leave. Well, this is, a forever home. They could be here till they're in their 60s, 70s. I wouldn't have taken her if we weren't going to be able to keep her. I think if there was more respite services for families, then you're going to get less abandoned children, less children that are mistreated, families that fall apart. The suicide rate is very high and the divorce rate is very high for families with special needs. So I think, if there's somewhere where these children can come to give the parents time again to sort of sort themselves out, then it holds families together for longer.
When Neelke and Sonia Wilkins had their son diagnosed with autism, they too were told to put him in an institution. They say little advice was given about proper treatment and that they should accept their son will never be functional.
It's a common thing of some of my colleagues to say to patients that there is just nothing that you can do. You need to institutionalize your child. I think sometimes we need more awareness. When I was trained at med school, we didn't know a lot about autism. It's becoming more and more common. The diagnosis is made more commonly, and there are lots of reasons for that. But there is still a lot of misconception and misinformation out there about autism. And autism is complex. It's difficult to get to know autism. And it's not a one-size-fits-all thing. So it's difficult to take out your prescription pad and give a prescription for autism. There is no such thing.
No, there's not a chance I'm going to leave my child in a home and just let him be there and go on with my life. I mean, there must be something you can do. There's always something you can do. And at least you need to try. You can't just put him in a home and just leave it there.
The Wilkins family took a bold step, packed up their lives on a farm and moved to Cape Town, where there was a growing trend towards alternative interventions for children with autism.
When we got here in the beginning, he didn't know who or what he was. It was blank. Zian didn't have anything. It was blank. Then we started with diet interventions, which is the first thing. I mean, diet is a big part of the healing process. So we started with that. It was very quickly that he became aware of what's going on, and the moment his gut was cleaned and all the nonsense was out of his body, he actually started to take things in, and he could slowly but surely started to learn things by himself.
The first diet that I would advocate for children on the autistic spectrum would be a healthy whole foods diet, because you really can't believe what children are eating these days. But then certain elimination diets are advocated for children on the autistic spectrum, and there are lots of varied reasons for it. Again, it's a very individual thing. Some diets are anti-inflammatory, some diets are done because there are specific allergies, some diets are done because of the pro-inflammatory components that are included in certain diets. So we would eliminate specific things for that reason.
But like all other alternative interventions, this one did not come cheap. The cost to supply organic food, free-range meats, gluten and dairy-free dishes, and a wide range of herbal supplements, some of which must be imported, cost the Wilkins family on average 4,000 rand per month.
Wat is toch? Net soos as ons stamp dat hy. Kyk, gaan jy gou vir pappa wag? Gaan jy staan?
By now, the Wilkins family was part of Jenny Buckle's well-established outreach program for other parents with autistic children. She shared her success stories about dietary interventions and other treatments that helped with the triplets.
The boys continued to make progress. They ended up going to a special needs classroom in sort of a mainstream school, and they loved school. Not Rourke so much, but Tristan and Mitch. And by the time they got to 16, they couldn't be in the classroom anymore, so they came home.
The triplets started regressing to a point where the whole family was in crisis.
Things that affected the whole family because they're a triplet. So when Rourke has a meltdown, Tristan has a meltdown, Mitchell sits with his hands over his ears and rocks. Tristan had also started getting episodes of being stuck, literally just getting stuck, and he would do these concertina fingers, and actually in the beginning would say to me, "Mom, I'm stuck." It got so bad to the point that he would stand in his room at his bed all night for 16 hours, unable to move from next to his bed to into his bed, unable to move from outside the bath into the bath, unable to move his spoon from his plate to his mouth. Rourke was at a stage where he was completely isolated in his room, wearing the same clothes, unable to be touched. I was having a really tough time. He had lots of rituals, and if he watched certain things, they would trigger huge meltdowns with really aggressive self-interest behavior. Kind of one evening hitting his head against the wall so hard that he dislodged his incisor tooth. And we didn't really know what to do.
By now, Jenny and the Wilkins family attended an international autism conference in America. They were desperate for better treatment.
In our search of what therapies to do what, my wife went over to Chicago for the Conference 1 therapy. You must keep in mind, we don't have anything in South Africa. There's nothing for us here, therapy-wise, for our children. So if we need something, we must go and find it somewhere else.
It was there that they met with homeopath Kerry Rivera, who was promoting the so-called CD protocol, a controversial chlorine dioxide protocol administered in small dosages.
Chlorine dioxide basically is a bleach product that you add citric acid to, and that then changes the molecule to chlorine dioxide, which is a water purifying chemical. This is given in drop form or in enemas, and is combined with a parasite protocol of herbal anti-parasitic medication.
We started with that, and we started that when Zian was 6 years old, and at that stage we weren't able to potty train him. And when we started with the protocol, within a month he potty trained himself.
So an immediate change in their sensory systems, what they felt like, so kind of physical things first. So we saw that, we were still having some meltdowns. Slowly but surely, over a month or two, we were having very few stuck episodes, if at all, and no self-interest behavior, even though we're still having meltdowns. Do you want to sit here and chat a little bit on camera? Do you want to tell? You want to? Not really.
The controversial chlorine dioxide protocol has been slammed in mainstream media across the world, accusing its users of abuse and gross medical negligence. But despite the controversy, some parents maintain it works. Various advocacy groups are calling for a worldwide ban on the medical use of the protocol. One of the parents in Jenny Buckle's support group claims Jenny advised parents to use the protocol on their autistic children. She refused to speak on camera, but in this email she says after seeing severe side effects in her child, she stopped using the product. One of Dr. Louise Lindenberg's long-distance patients landed up in hospital with kidney failure, and the child's mother then admitted she too was using the chlorine dioxide protocol on her child. Another parent came to her with a stool sample as proof of the protocol's supposed success.
She came in with 3 bottles of what she called parasites, and when I saw them, I asked her if I could have it investigated, and we sent it to a lab to see, microbiology speaking, if there were any parasites in these containers. Back. Flat. There. The histology was plant material, mucus, and the lining of the colon. And that is quite upsetting because the evidence of this treatment is claimed to be associated with the elimination of parasites. So these children invariably do excrete these parasites, and these parasites aren't parasites. They're part of your colon material.
We never saw any side effects of any kind. In fact, you're supposed to see some herxing or some kind of reactions if they have a little bit too much in their systems, or if we saw absolutely nothing ever. We only saw improvement.
I don't think it's illegal to use in South Africa. There are other countries where it is illegal, and people have actually been put into jail for the use of it. But in South Africa, there's no legal process associated with it yet.
All I know is it's not illegal in South Africa, so I don't see that it's got any bad influence on my child.
Unfortunately, I haven't followed any of these children up. I don't know how well they're doing. People have been telling me that children do well on chlorine dioxide. I haven't seen it objectively so that I can confirm that. Now, that doesn't say it's not happening, but it's difficult to tell on which basis it's happening.
We decided, okay, next step, our child's getting older, he must get into mainstream school to give him a chance of life. We met a lady that took her child for other reasons to the Institute for Human Development in Philadelphia in America.
The family flew to America and attended an intensive 2-week training program to learn the contentious Doman techniques at a staggering cost of 200,000 rand. Special Assignment took a decision to show how these techniques are used on Zian to highlight the extent some families go to in their quest to treat their autistic children. So-called masking is a first step in the program. Zian must wear an oxygen mask for a minute every 5 minutes for most of the day, believing that it assists brain-injured children. Yet another activity is called patterning. It's carried out several times a day and involves the manipulation of Zian's head and limbs.
Ek kan ook nie sien nie. Ja, babes. As ons klaar is, gaan ek hom vir jou gee, okay? In Zian's case, he didn't creep or he didn't crawl either. That's one of the reasons why he's got difficulty learning and why he's difficulty in speech. So we must pattern the brain so that the brain can overcome that little issue.
The program is closely monitored by collecting data of every bit of progress. Zian's tutors and other monthly expenses run into more than 30,000 rand per month, placing these alternative treatments far beyond the reach of ordinary South Africans. The program also includes a vigorous exercise plan carried out over the 5-hour tutoring session every day. Zian's tutor takes him to the gym where he has to creep on his tummy, aiming to do 800 meters a day. Next, Zian is taken to the local horse race track where the ultimate goal is to crawl 1.2 kilometers every day. The program is criticized by some for the intense physical demands that it places on the child.
Leave a normal 8-year child to run around. They do it on their own. Yes, it is tough, but his life up until now wasn't easy either. So it's not child. I can't see it as child abuse, or if he's down for the day or he's a little bit sick or something. I mean, we're not going to do 1.2 kilo. That's our aim. If you only do 400 meters for the day, then it's 400 meters for the day.
Opponents who are critical of most alternative treatment programs advocate in favor of so-called neurodiversity, calling for the autistic child to be embraced and accepted, despite his or her disabilities. At the other side of the spectrum, there's a growing trend of families worldwide who say they will explore all avenues in their quest to give their kids the chance of a normal life.
I completely understand parents' desperation to try absolutely anything. The bottom line is autism cannot be cured. It's a part of the individual from cradle to grave. It can, however, be managed. So there are therapies and mainstream therapies that really can assist that individual to cope in society and to be a happy and secure adult.
There is a vast array of treatment procedures that people follow to improve autism. A lot of people that feel that they can cure autism. I think more functional is probably a very good idea to bring across. Curing would mean that you're seeing it as a disease. I think it's a genetic predisposition that is expressed due to environmental factors. And I think you can't change the genetics, you can change the expression. You can get the development on par. You can get that child to catch up on development with certain other children. You might still have some quirky features, but yes, in general, you can improve the outcome of autism a lot.
He can be normal. Yes, he won't be 100% normal maybe, but who is 100% normal? I see him go to school. That's what every parent hopes for and wishes for. That's our goal, and we'll do it as far as we can. And if it doesn't happen, then that's life. We'll still love him. He's our child. He'll stay with us.
In part 2 on autism, special assignment tracks Princess's journey in Johannesburg, who finds herself at a crossroads. Should she follow the advice to embrace her autistic son's disabilities or try an alternative route and give him a shot at a normal life? Across the country in Cape Town, another mother has made peace with the fact that her 3 autistic sons will never fully recover.
Right now, with Rock really struggling, I don't look further than day 1. But I see them getting better and better and happier, and that is what I do, right? Is to provide a safe, happy environment for them here and now, helping them be as independent as they possibly can, even though I don't see that them ever living independently right now. Them being happy, well, and doing things that they're good at, and increasing their self-esteem. That's what we work towards.